And we're live. What is up, everybody?
How y'all
Yeah.
doing? How y'all doing?
Now, it wouldn't be a Fit Dad's live show if we weren't late. And as always, it is my fault. Today's show, we have something a little different in store. We try to bring something different to the table almost every show, but today should be pretty fun because we're going to argue with each other or debate each other coming from. Bring something different to the table almost every show, but today should be pretty fun because are you guys getting that feedback or is that just me?
I'm not getting feedback.
Hmm. Okay. Anyway, we'll go on. So we're gonna play devil's advocate, and I think Michael's gonna go first. And we're gonna argue from the perspective of it is possible to be healthy at every size. And then halfway through the show, we're gonna swap perspectives or positions or however you like to put it. But once again, I apologize for being late. It's kind of like a broken record at this point. Just I figure you guys are used to it. But thank you guys for being here. I see we got 3 people here for now.
Absolutely.
If you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, it helps the algorithm. Maybe might show the show to more people so that more people might, hop in here. We could get some more people in the chat. So
100%.
anytime throughout the debate or conversation that you feel like you'd like to add some value to the conversation, go ahead and just pop it in the chat. We always like to read our live chats as well.
Always, always.
So how you want to kick it off, Michael? What you think?
So basically, I mean, what we're trying to do here is try to argue both perspectives of the fit or healthy at any size. And so I'm just going to go ahead and start us off. Then let's see if you could argue back. The thing is I can see the side of of healthy at any size or fit at any size. I see it because the way I'm looking at it is if I'm happy, why are you messing with me? Leave me alone. I mean, I get to eat what I want, look how I want, get around and do whatever I want, and it keeps me happy. Is it really bothering you?
I mean, honestly, if it's just the people that aren't bothering anybody else, I don't have anything to say to them. They don't bother me. It's the people that come onto channels like ours and try to start trouble, the people who preach this garbage to little kids. Those are the people I take issue with, honestly.
Yeah, well, I
So,
mean, but from your perspective, it could sound like garbage, but from mine, I'm just trying to keep everybody happy. So I don't know why, if I'm, you know, talking to kids about, eating whatever they want and sitting around playing video games all day and it keeps them happy, why is that a big deal? A lot of people these days are pretty upset with everything that's going on. So might as well escape in the a bucket of ice cream and some video games. What's wrong with that?
it's about the same as asking what's wrong with smoking heroin. Yeah, it feels good at the time, but what are the long term consequences? You know,
Well, I mean, you do have some consequences, some obvious consequences when it comes to illicit drugs. But I don't know of anything that is really solid and concrete that's telling me that me enjoying and indulging in food and doing what I want to do and being lazy if I feel like it, as long as it's not bothering somebody else, I don't see how that's of a detriment at all. I mean, illicit drugs definitely do kill. I will agree with that, but. I mean, can you tell me where the science says that my being overweight or obese kills?
oh, I absolutely can. There's data sets linking all the way back to the 70s, if not further back, show that there are links between being obese and having heart attacks, links between being obese and having strokes. Those that are obese, the older they get, the more likely they are. I mean, more likely anybody is obviously to have any kind of fatal issue the older you get. That's just kind of obvious. But as the obesity level rises, um, the more likely you are to suffer from one of these fatalities, such as stroke or heart attack or aneurysms, things like that. So basically what it does is eating like saturated fats, having a lot of excess fats around your artery walls. It can clog your arteries. It can weaken your artery walls, and it causes things like aneurysms. It causes things like strokes. It's really a lot of the things that we see commonalities with inside of the drug abuse world. Because that's why I linked it to doing drugs, because there's so many commonalities when you look at morbid obesity. And I'm I'll sit right there with you and tell you, there's active people who are overweight that are much more healthy than people sitting on the couch that are, quote unquote healthy according to BMI standards, because I don't agree with BMI. But when it comes down to morbid obesity and health at every size, I do not agree with that at all. I mean, as on the spectrum of anorexic and then morbid obese to like Tammy, it's the anorexic person is not healthy and Tammy is not healthy either. There's that sweet spot right in the middle where people are on average the most healthy as far as like I said, the data set, the what's it called, statistics show.
Okay. Well, I was replaying your last show, and you guys went over mental health. And so the way I see it is that mental health is just as bad. And we're talking about, if you're also talking about addiction, you're either addicted to one thing or the other. I think we all are addicted to something to some degree. If my addiction is different from yours, which yours may be eating healthy and going to the gym, my addiction is indulging in food and playing video games. And what that does for my mental health is it actually makes my mental health what I feel to be better. So why can't I be healthy and do what I want to do with my addiction? But you're forcing your addiction on me. What's going on there?
Nobody's trying to force anything. We're just trying to agree to a certain set of standards that is reality of being healthy. So I'm not trying to force anything on anybody. I don't feel like anybody else should be forced anything onto them. I just want to reach an agreement as far as what health is and what, the standard is, the standard model for being healthy is.
So if we can just say that we're not, you're not trying to force your addiction on me, then we could say that we're trying to meet an understanding is what you're saying. So if you want to know what the health is, what really is measured, what measures your health, I mean, let's just go off of, I guess basic vitals, right? Heart rate, blood pressure. If everything like that, whenever I go to the doctor right now, it's fine. So why is it a problem if I'm overweight? And then why is it also then a problem if I'm, telling my kids and showing them the same thing? Daddy's healthy right now, and daddy's also mentally healthy. He's happy eating and doing what he wants to do. Why can't I, show my kids that kind of lifestyle? How is that? So how are we really measuring health if I'm healthy today?
If you're obese, I know you said overweight. I think you meant obese. If you're obese, I would bet your blood pressure is not at a healthy measurement. I would love to see it if it is. It's not common for that to take effect. I don't even have what's considered a healthy blood pressure, and I'm 15% body fat, 200 pounds, 6'3". And my blood pressure, especially that bottom number, loves to stay around 89, 95 sometimes, depending on how much road rage I had on the way to the doctor. So, yeah, the blood pressure thing, I lost my mom to that. My mom she wasn't like morbidly obese. She was overweight for sure. I don't know if she was in the obese category, but she never went to the doctor. She never got checkups or anything like that. And she died of an aneurysm at 39 years old. So the blood pressure thing really bothers me. And my doctor, my general practitioner, told me that she thinks my mom had hypertension. It's probably something that runs in my family. And as you consume more energy than your body metabolizes basically. You're going to store that energy as body fat. As you accrue more body fat, that's more of a workload on all of your organs, your heart, your liver, everything. And where your heart has to work harder, where your arteries are being constricted more by more excess visceral fat, there is going to be an increase in blood pressure.
Agreed. So if you're coming from a blood pressure standpoint, we're arguing that, and you're telling me that I'm seeing you, and you look like a pretty healthy individual. You seem like you carry a healthy lifestyle, and you struggle with your blood pressure. But me, I don't, and I'm obese, and I don't have it in my genetics. So I've got that playing for me. So in your on your side of the table, unfortunately, genetically, that's likely what's causing your high blood pressure. So what's the difference between me and you at this point? If your pressure is high, my pressure is currently normal. I just got back from my physical a couple of weeks ago, and it was great actually. I got my blood pressure was 118 over 72.
So are you coming from the standpoint of obesity or just overweight? Because overweight, that's not really health at every size. And
Yeah.
it's like I said, there are people that are overweight that are a lot more healthy than people who are of quote unquote average weight and, or healthy quote unquote weight. So I just want to understand where exactly are you coming from morbid obesity? Are you coming from the obesity standpoint? Or are you just coming from overweight? Because
Well,
we're just going to have common ground across the board if we're coming from the overweight standpoint. So I feel like you should, I don't know, is it obesity? So are you over the overweight line into the obesity category? Because
yeah.
that's more where I'm taking the issue with telling kids it's okay to be obese.
Well, yeah, and I think it's kind of hateful speech when you talk about the word obesity over overweight. I feel like I'm overweight. The doctor wants to call me obese, but the bottom line is I'm just trying to say that my blood pressure is fine and I'm obese. And so why then, if my genetics are okay and in line there, and truly to this point, as a fact, I'm healthy right now at this point in my life as a 42-year-old man and obese. Um, and then you being a male that I believe is the least, in your 30s and fit, and you struggle with blood pressure. So I'm having trouble finding that common ground whenever the doctor wants to call me obese and then other people want to call me unhealthy. I'm trying to say that you can be healthy at any size, and I'm a person that can stand here and say that that's happening. So really, what is the argument?
If you are considered obese, I'm assuming if you did a physical, your doctor's probably going by the BMI standards.
Yeah.
So when you cross according to BMI standards, and if you don't take into account my body fat percentage, I am considered to be overweight because I'm 200 pounds. But that's because I have a very, very little bit more muscle mass than the average 6'3" guy. So that muscle mass is taken into account, and it's basically just body weight versus height. That's all BMI is. It doesn't account for how much muscle mass you have, how much water weight you're carrying, how much fat, how much body fat you have. But one of the things that you mentioned that I wanted to get back to is um, it's not hateful. What's up, Repair Gang? Happy to see you here, man. It's not hateful for a doctor to objectively tell you, you know, you go to the doctor to get checkups on your health, right? So all your doctor's job is to give you the layout of the metrics. You know, yes, your blood pressure looks good, your heart rate looks good, your resting heart rate looks awesome. But you're a little bit you're kind of going over into this obese category. And that's where I get into some problems because there's bodybuilders that'll step on stage at 300 pounds, 5% body fat, and they would be considered obese because they're short. They're shorter than I am. They're like 6 foot, but they're 300 pounds. So they are considered obese when it comes to BMI standards. But if you take into account body fat percentage, how could they be obese when they have hardly any body fat on their body? So BMI standards, I kind of agree with Blackbeard, or Repair Gang here. He says BMI sucks. It needs a rework because it really does. It doesn't take into effect your body fat percentage. But there's nothing hateful about just telling people, according to statistics, according to the data set that we have, what appears to be the most healthy metrics for a person to kind of live by on average. It's like I said, you're always going to have outliers. Smoking cigarettes is terrible, right? Well, my grandpa smoked cigarettes his entire life. He told me he used to roll up leaves when he was little, and he was like 7, and he would smoke leaves. And he smoked cigarettes till he was like 78, and he finally died of a stroke. So, I mean, you're always going to have outliers, right? But on average, it's like I said, that visceral fat that builds up around your artery walls, it builds up around your organs, it puts pressure on your organs. The higher your body weight is, the more your organs have to work to maintain your body weight, whether it's muscle mass, whether it's body fat, no matter what it is. That's why bigger, heavier people, taller people tend to have shorter lifespans than smaller. And, you see a lot of women outlive their men. And that's because the men are on average larger, taller, heavier. Their organs have a higher workload than the women do. So just got to think about that. You got to think about the visceral body fat building up around the organs. And it's just to have, there's so many things that go into being healthy. And you brought up mental health, and it's some people, they try to portray this image that they're happy online on social media and everything, but it's really like they're looking for reassurance. They're looking for validation. And that they're just grabbing that bucket of ice cream at the end of every live stream they do and just sitting down and watching My 600-Pound Life or something and crying their eyes out because they're not happy with their body image. So yes, they portray the image that their mental health is great, but it's really not. And the thing that gets me about that is that they're portraying this image online, and then these young and very, very, what do you call it? I just made a post about it yesterday. These kids, their minds are malleable. I forget the word for it. They are very easily persuaded. Mm-hmm. And when these maybe preteen, young teens see things like that, maybe they're uncomfortable with their body image, and then they see that and they're like, oh, it's okay, my doctor's wrong. The 8 years he spent going to school learning about this stuff, just throw that out the window. He's just a hateful bigot. That's where I take an issue.
Okay.
Impressionable, yes, Repair Gang, that is correct. Thank you, sir. And what's up, Bracket? Haven't seen you in a while, man. Awesome. Man, we got quite a show going, dude. This is what's up, dude.
Yeah, so, since they're here and they're ready for an argument, I mean, I'm going to give you one, man. So here's the thing.
Go.
I heard you, man. I hear everything you said. But unfortunately, we've got someone in the chat here right here that really kind of supports my side of the story. So I've got Repair Gang talking about he's a proud fatty. And so that tells me that we've got people out there that do want to support us, right? So I'm obese. And that's what the doctor wants to tell me. I just call myself fat and healthy, right? I'm happy, healthy. I'm out of y'all's way. I'm not doing anything. I'm raising my own child how I want to do. And so what we're trying to do here is you're trying to compare then to you have, the BMI scale. And I do think the BMI scale is completely ridiculous. And that's how they labeled me obese. And that's why I think it's hateful, because then you have a bodybuilder that walks into the same clinic and they're not called obese. They're not called obese, but what they are doing is they're indulging and usually when they're that large at their height and they're carrying that much meat on their frame, they're usually taking some sort of a steroid, which is I would argue to say is more dangerous than me eating a little bit of ice cream after a live stream and enjoying some video games. So really, my mental health is more healthy than you think. I think you're assuming that I'm upset, but I actually enjoy eating my ice cream, and I play video games with my kid, and he does it with me. But while that bodybuilder is in the doctor's office, he's not getting called obese. He's not getting lectured about that. Likely, he's getting advice on where he can safely get his steroids and then continue to work out and then take all the drugs he needs to keep his blood pressure and cholesterol down. He's not getting preached at. So I think that's why I think it's hateful, and I don't think that we're meeting in the middle here at this point, because I've got folks here that are in the chat ready to just say, yeah, they're proud fatty. I'm sorry, man, but I'm not with you, bro.
Well, to be clear, I never said that the bodybuilding lifestyle, especially the professional bodybuilding lifestyle, is healthy in any way. It is one of the most stressful lifestyles a person can live. I know bodybuilders personally, and I would say their organs are under more stress, or at least equivalent stress, that a person who is 400 plus pounds, especially once they get to that elite level, because it is not only it's not only the steroids, it's not only the absurd amount of muscle mass they're carrying around, because like I stated before, whether it's muscle mass or body fat, the more body weight you are carrying around, the more of a workload you're putting on your organs. And at the end of the day, from my standpoint, it is the name of the game is health, because we want to have longevity to stay around for our kids. So it's not that, there's there's several different tiers of bodybuilding. So isn't one called like health and wellness or something? No, that's a women's category. Anyway, so and even in that category, I don't really think that they're they're really that healthy, because I think that that tier of bodybuilding is also involved with some drugs, as you mentioned. Where I see health is just moderate fitness, good, not bastardizing getting up and moving around, getting your heart rate up, okay? And not bastardizing eating a healthy diet. I was in a stream just last night, and the host of the stream, he's overweight. He claims it. And you know him. His name is Jeremy. He does the quartering. And there were all these people in his chat claiming, I eat 8,000 calories a day. And I'm just like, okay, dude. And about the fifth time I saw it happen, I just had to say something, because I was so like, 8,000 calories? Are you fucking Thor Bjornsson? Are you Eddie Hall? I don't think so. No one is consistently eating 8,000 calories a day without being ridiculously overweight. And the amount of time that it takes to eat even 4,000 calories in a single day, unless you're just stuffing cheesecake down your face and McDonald's, is insane. The first time I counted my calories and watched, I knew I had to have eaten, 3,000 or 4,000 calories. I'd barely scraped 1,500. When you're actually taking the time to measure, and I filled up the however many characters it gives you. I'm just like, dude, no, nobody is eating 8,000 calories consistently on a day-to-day basis, and then not looking like Eric Cartman in that episode where they all play the video games forever. It's just not how things work. You may think, and people love to over exaggerate the amount they eat. Like maybe one day, you ate a tub of peanut butter and a bunch of unhealthy crap, and yeah, you grazed 8,000 calories. But to claim that that's what you eat on a daily basis, I mean, maintenance for me is like 30 100, and I'm very lucky to hit that mark every day. What's up, Chris Diggs? Appreciate you being here.
Okay. Well, then let me add to that then, right? So you've argued your side a little bit, and that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to do. So I'm going to continue to argue my side. Basically, what I'm hearing from you, from the fitness side of things, is that you guys have just as much health problems as we do, and you have just as much bastardization of your lifestyle as we do over here on the obese side. So I'm just wondering why we can't just leave each other alone and let bygones be bygones and let us enjoy our life and be mentally healthy as well as so far physically healthy. My all of my basic vitals are right in line. And so we're having trouble here reaching common ground because I believe as I argue my side, you will continue to argue your side, but then you try to meet me and say that you do have problems on the fitness side and you have bastardization, you have extremism basically on the fitness side when you're talking about bodybuilding or things of that nature that cause health problems. So unfortunately, as you do that, it seems to be drifting over here to me, in my opinion. And I would love the chat to argue back with me as well, or sound off on my side. Because the thing is, I think it's kind of silly that if every time you're going to argue, you tell me you have problems on your side of the table too, then I just can't meet you in the middle. Because so far as we stand, if you want to argue that I'm not healthy and obese, and yet you are because of simply genetics, can we just say that mental health is more important and just keeping me happy is more important and keeping you happy is more important? If we just leave each other alone, we're happy. Why do I have to subscribe to maybe your lifestyle? And then why do you need to worry about mine?
Yeah, as Blackbeard just said, I'm all for people living their own lives and minding their own business, for sure. Um, anyway, who brought genetics into this? I
Well, I
don't
did.
remember anybody. Yeah, see, I never mentioned genetics, and you kind of cut fitness off as only bodybuilding. That's while that is a branch of the fitness community, I wouldn't call it health and fitness at all. I wouldn't even include bodybuilding into the health and fitness community unless you're only talking about like the what's it called, the amateurs, the guys who aren't pumping all kinds of juice and don't make their. I mean, so who is it? Chris Bumstead. He's the current uh, IFBB pro. Okay, and he's kind of changed the game as far as bodybuilding goes because everyone used to think that you had to pump every kind of freaking steroid you could find and do all this. Well, Chris Bumstead has underlying issues, and he has actually gotten to that top tier level by using such small amounts, amounts that most other bodybuilders criticize him all the time and don't believe he's using these amounts. But what he does is he is so very strict on his diet regimen that he's actually able to achieve the IFBB pro level. And obviously, he has top tier genetics. So, when you talk about health, though, and the fitness community, let's think about who are our top show people for the fitness community. You have different branches, you should say. So you got cycling. Cyclists are insanely healthy. They have incredible heart health. They have stamina that's out of this world, and you never see an obese cyclist, do you? No, you don't. So you have swimming. Never see an obese swimmer. They also have insane cardiovascular health. And then you also have all the different sports. Now, when you get into other sports, especially professional sports like football, you've got your linemen who are definitely overweight to obese, or you've got your tight ends or your running backs or your wide receivers, and they're hardly ever going to be even overweight. Maybe on the BMI chart, they might be like me, where they kind of tip over the overweight scale just because they happen to be, but like I said, I'm at like 15, 16% body fat, and it doesn't take into account muscle mass. So to say that when I'm giving you a little ground, that I'm not trying to meet you in the middle, I don't see how you're trying to make that make any sense. Because if I'm giving ground and I'm not meeting you in the middle, that means that you're swerving around me and twisting my words so that we deliberately do not meet. It means that you are taking a step out of my way.
Fair, fair. So let me add this in too, since you seem to be a reasonable person. From my side of the table here, what I'm hearing is that we, in the fitness industry at large, you have your big names, and you're right. You were right whenever you said that all I'm referencing was bodybuilding, and I did, and that was a mistake on my part. But you also go further and say that, so Chris Bumstead, he's IFBB pro, Mr. Olympia. So we would all stand to say he's a pretty famous individual and represents the fitness industry, whether you like it or not. And then also,
yes,
you have like your all your professional athletes who also are on steroids and also push bodies to limits that are unhealthy, and they seem to die young. And so what's happening is what's really more dangerous: a fitness industry that has a bunch of famous people that are showing their unhealthy lifestyle, or the obese people over here, which who do we have that's famous that is in your face? If we do, we've got a couple that have just started to get famous over the last couple of years, and y'all are hating on them. You're ripping poor Lizzo apart. I mean, you got Lizzo, and y'all always want to dog on her, but she's got a fantastic voice. She's a great entertainer, and so far, to me, she only serves to make everybody happy. So you have a fitness industry that's toxic, and then you have an obese industry that only has a couple of people just starting to come up because maybe we're starting to be more included into society. So what's the harm in it?
There are very, many more big names in this body positive community, and it's almost as if they do target impressionable teens with their their ideas. And it's just, when we try to look at statistics together, they will either say that that is not valid, or they will just flat out deny whatever they're looking at. They'll just, find a way to work around it. So when you take a data set, say, what, you trust the World Health Organization?
I don't trust anybody but what's in the mirror, man. I don't listen to CDC or the WHO.
Okay, so health and no statistics. You don't trust any statistics as far as
I trust my statistics. I'm just going off of my own life. I'm going off.
But where do you think the doctor that is giving you your statistics gets his statistics from to measure yours from? To base the where do you think he finds his foundation to go off of?
Well, I'm sure he goes off of history, but unfortunately, so far you're looking at a healthy guy who's obese. Again, it doesn't address the toxic fitness industry and how toxic that whole industry is. So if my argument is that your fitness industry is toxic, and then your argument is that my obese lifestyle is toxic, then who's right? Can we just both be wrong? Or because you're certainly not right, you haven't shown me that you're right.
All right, Brackett, I appreciate you being here, man. I don't know if that cut out was on my end or not, but anyway, it's almost time to where we need to swap perspectives. But before we do that, I'm going to crush you real quick because we can look up any well-known and trusted data set, and I can prove to you the difference between obesity death rates at 60, obesity death rates at 70, obesity death rates at 50 versus healthy weight deaths at 50, healthy weight death rates at 60. It does matter. It does take a toll on your organs, no matter if you want to deny it or not. Yes, you can do cardio, you can move around, improve your blood flow, unclog your arteries. You can be healthier than somebody who only sits on the couch and still be overweight or maybe a little bit obese. But you're not going to get into the morbid obese category and still be able to maintain health. Your blood pressure is going to spike. Your arteries are going to be clogged. You're going to have issues as far as your, things like aneurysms, blood clots, heart attacks. They always arise, and you see it. I mean, over 100 times more in people who are morbidly obese versus people who are just at a healthy average weight. And I'm not saying average as in average of US, because the average weight in America is overweight or obese probably at this point after the pandemic. But yes, I mean, you can be more active and be healthier than somebody who's anorexic by far, because you're still consuming foods, you're getting your health is also better off viruses or whatever. But whereas the person who's anorexic has no raw materials, or bulimic because they're throwing them all up, they have no raw materials that they're giving to their body to give them the energy they need to maintain their organs or their just maintain life in general. So yes, you can be healthier and be overweight, but you're not going to be healthy. And I agree with what you say as far as the fitness industry being toxic, but by no means do I think, kind of telling people to be healthy, because a lot of the people that are promoting health and fitness, they're what they call fake natties. They're kind of saying, do what I say, not what I do, as far as that goes. So I think that is more healthy than to say, eat whatever you want. You're perfect the way you are. And here we go. And we got a 16-year-old who dies of issues related to her obesity.
I do understand that. I do. I just feel like we've started to find some common ground here, and basically, I'm just going to say that both industries are toxic, because so far we haven't proven either one is more toxic than the other, in my opinion. You have the fitness industry that also kills children all the time whenever they overreach. What a child's capacity is, or they're not able to diagnose certain things, and they're out there being these quote unquote athletes, and they're dropping. So this, the extreme physical activity can be just as dangerous as the extreme inactivity. And so I'm having real trouble so if we can meet in the middle there, then really who's happier? So is it the one that is always having to push themselves all the time to attain something that might not be attainable, and they could die early just as well as I could? Or are we happier over here on the obese category, who we are actually happy just doing whatever we want to do and trying to build each other up and our self-esteem up, and say, and have y'all basically, invite us in and say, hey, you're a part of us. You're equal. You're not less than, and you're not going to mock us and preach at us. So there's where I think we're missing. I think we found common ground that both industries are completely and utterly toxic.
There's toxicity in both industries for sure. But as far as the data statistics show, pushing yourself to achieve a goal and then feeling that happiness of achieving that goal often makes a person feel more accomplished than just sitting and hitting another level on Skyrim. And why I can relate to Skyrim is I play Skyrim all the time. I love playing video games. I play Zelda. I play Skyrim. I don't play Fortnite. I haven't gotten into that one, but yeah, I love playing video games. But I don't see why we can't do both. I mean, especially once you have a kid, it kind of you see a lot of people start to change the way they are living their lives once they have a kid. You see them drink less, or you'll see them try to quit smoking cigarettes, or you'll see them start going for walks, or start going to the gym. And the reason is internally even if they don't want to admit it, they know that it is healthier to move your body, be active, set even small goals and reach those goals as far as your, whether you want to admit it or not. Body image is linked to mental health. And whenever people look in the mirror and they see themselves as what they expect is less than appealing to onlookers from the if they go out in public, that does weigh down on them. And they don't want to admit it, but there are there are standards as far as beauty and attraction go. I mean, there always have been, and nothing's going to change that. There's always going to be outliers for sure. People with certain fetishes or types or whatever, but it's still going to weigh on somebody if they don't look the way they think that, especially if they're a single individual, if they don't look the way that they feel like society or prospective mates would want them to look, or find them more appealing if they look this certain way. It will weigh on the mental health.
All right. Nice. I want to flip it now because that's interesting. The thing is that this is actually pretty fun, man. So I'm glad that you, suggested we do this, guys. This was Chris's idea to kind of go at each other like this, and I think what it does is it challenges one another, and it really, at least from my perspective of Chris, it really it got me, oddly enough, understanding how someone who might be obese and defending that hill, I can see their argument, because I kind of enjoyed trying to pick yours apart and try to talk around you and put words in your mouth, things like that. Whatever you got to do to win an argument, right? Because let's be honest, there's some dirty tactics that seem to be coming from that side of the table.
Well, you're better at debate than Joe Biden, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I do appreciate that, but I don't really know what kind of standard that really sets. So I don't know if that's an insult.
Well, you showed up, so.
So anyway, that I think that's interesting. So I want to flip it, because I'd love to hear how you try to argue the obese side as well. Because the thing is I just want to kind of see how that feels to you. It felt different to me. It felt very odd to argue obesity or healthy at any size. That was a very weird. That was perplexing to me, but I was able to do it. Made it easy.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to do it too well, honestly. I mean, I'm gonna give it my best shot.
Go for it, man.
It's kind of, I could just pick up where you left off. Is sorry, whatever that little fluffy ball thing on my microphone's messed up. Anyway, as long as you can hear me, we're good. People are very complicated and complex creatures, especially as we increase our population across the world. We've seen a very large spike in obesity. We've seen a large spike in young teens, obese teens, and young children. And for them to have this mental weight, like I was just explaining, I'm almost arguing with myself, for them to have that on them just because of society standards, it can be crushing for a child. How many adults do you know today that it's like they just go to the gym and that's all they ever do. Their entire life revolves around the gym because they got picked on as the fat kid when they were younger, you know. And now they're almost like they almost overdo it, if you can kind of see my point there. And so for Lizzo to say you're beautiful the way you are, you're healthy or you're fine, you know, it's kind of trying to break that standard of society, you know, that kind of only appeals to this one standard, this one look, this one attractiveness, if you will. Um, so we're trying to develop a new standard for what's accepted as healthy. So, is that such a bad thing for little kids not to feel so, you know, such an outcast just because their parents didn't feed them correctly or take the time to make sure they didn't develop hypertrophic obesity when they were, you know,
Well, that's a
infants or
good question, and I
toddlers?
can tell that it was sure, sure. And so that's a very good question, and the way you articulated it was thoughtful. So I'm going to try to respond in the same regard, to try to keep things respectful. Um, and I'm just going to say right out, although I'm being respectful, I have to be frank that I kind of don't care too much about feelings when it comes to the health and the future of our existence, right? And so if you're just talking about the children, why I have children myself, and I do look after their mental health very much, and I do care about their feelings in a sense, right? Because as children, that's kind of all they have. They operate on feelings. They haven't matured yet to be able to operate in logic. And so that's where my job lies, is to operate within logic. And I cannot indulge their feelings in everything. Now, sometimes I do because I love them and I love seeing them happy. And never so often, there's nothing wrong with not, beating a child down with logic and letting them have their feelings. But I don't believe that giving a child the right to their feelings when it comes to their overall health and then thereby the future of mankind, because they are our future. I don't see that side of it. I'm sorry, man. Feelings, I just simply don't care about. The facts are the facts. And that obesity in the United States is an epidemic that is on the rise, and it costs our healthcare system billions of dollars, period. End of story. And that's all there is to it. I take the feelings out.
Okay, so what we see a lot of, you know, we've done a show on New Year's resolutions. So, say a young person, or maybe even early 20s, they got picked on in high school and they were like, okay, I'm sick of it. And they were like, I'm going to start eating healthy. I'm watching. My fiance insisted on getting this pet spider, and I'm just convinced it's going to find its way out of that thing because it's so small. It's a baby jumping spider, and it's so tiny. We
Oh,
had to put
hell
a
no.
screen across the terrarium,
Hell no.
and in order for us to be able to feed him, I had to cut a little hole and make like a little trap door in the screen. And I don't know if it's sealed. I mean, he's my smaller than a quarter of the size of my pinky nail. You got to like take your phone and zoom in on him to even like see him. It's whatever. I don't care. I mean, I'd prefer spiders to other kinds of insects. But back to the point. You see a lot these people that will they'll go into the gym and they'll try to overdo it their first day or their first few days, and then they just feel like hell, and then they backslide and go further, you know, further off into obesity, off into morbidly obese, you know, and then and you see the same thing almost when it relates to mental health. You see these people that are picked on for being fat, and rather than doing something about their poor body image, they just grab a bucket of ice cream and sit there and eat and watch cartoons or something, you know? I mean, it's cliche. You've seen it on, I mean, on all kinds of what movies that our fiancés or women make us watch with them. You know, they always lose their lover and then they're crying and eating their ice cream and shit, you know? So it's, where is that fine line where we got to kind of be, I don't want to say accepting, but we got to kind of cater to them in a certain way where we're not like bastardizing them, or we're not like, you know, we want to present facts, obviously, but we also don't want to make it in such a way that makes them feel like, well, screw it, I'm already fat, you know, screw everything, I might as well just eat more, because that's what we see a lot. And that's kind of how we've gotten to where we are now is, you know, and a lot of it is probably from the preteens and the younger kids, because as we did on a even more recent show, we discussed the hypertrophic obesity and the difference therein, as you know, infants and young children are able to develop, you know, multiply their fat cells. So if they're beginning at that poor starting point, you know, because of their parents, and then society's standards don't match up to theirs, and then now they have people like Lizzo. Uh, what's the other one? The starts with a T, I think.
Halliday?
Huh?
Tess Halliday?
Yeah, yep. So they've got posters of her up, and they love her, right? And they're all, say it's a little girl, or you know, a preteen girl, and she's been fed this poor diet. You know, her parents didn't make sure that she was eating healthy foods all the time. You know, they would let her eat donuts, cheesecakes, whatever. And she developed a hypertrophic obesity. Her parents are, say they're not even obese. They're healthy weights, right? So they just assumed that their child, genetic wise, wouldn't develop obesity. So yeah, go ahead and eat whatever, you know, because we all have that genetic limit, you know. Even Greg Doucette talks about that. So they didn't know about hypertrophic obesity. They didn't know that little kids are able to develop more fat cells and multiply their fat cells. So they were letting her eat whatever. So from the mindset of this little girl who's getting picked on at school, how do we get her to realize that no, don't listen to Tess Holiday, don't listen to Lizzo, because to her, those are her heroes. She's a 12 or 13-year-old girl, you know, and those are her heroes. They helped her, she thinks, realize that she's beautiful no matter what. So now we're kind of in this strange area where these little kids, and now a lot of them are growing up, they're getting into 18, 19, and now they can fucking vote. Okay. So we've got an issue here. How do we get into, because as soon as they hear anything that contradicts with their narrative, they immediately block it off, bastardize it, and start calling you a bigot. So how are we to get into their minds and to reach them through the mental health aspect and make them realize that, look, no matter what these few people are saying, you know, about standards and what standards of beauty are, no matter who Victoria's Secret puts on their magazine cover, there's always going to be an underlying genetic favorability towards a certain look when people are looking for a mate. And
Okay.
as long as that exists, that's going to weigh on people's minds if they don't match that image.
Right. Okay. So my response to that is going to be, are we so concerned with beauty or health here? Because to me, I thought, it's more important to be healthy. And so again, when you're talking about beauty, there are a couple of things that are at play here. Number one, it's feelings again. And I've already said that I couldn't care less about people's feelings in many circumstances. But two, we're also talking about just vanity, right? And like beauty is in the eye of the beholder type of thing. So nobody can expect to be beautiful to everyone. So this comes down to mental health just as much as it comes down to physical health. Because if an individual is not mentally strong enough to handle the world around them and understand and realize that your happiness does not hinge on the entire world accepting you, you're going to have a lot of trouble. And that's a massive problem. And that's a huge problem that really a whole lot of younger people in this upcoming generation have.
That's exactly what I was saying, though. That's the problem. I mean, I'm almost like arguing. I'm still arguing from the other side
You are.
because it's difficult, man. It's like I can understand, like, because I remember being a teenager. Okay, I thought I knew everything. My parents couldn't teach me anything. I was stubborn as hell. So to think about that, I think I had a memory on Facebook. Okay, I feel like a week ago. It was 10 years ago, and it was me. I had my shades on. I took a picture with some chick, and I shared the memory, and I was like, man, to be able to just go back for 30 minutes and have a conversation with this fucking guy, because I feel like my future self would be the only person I would have listened to. I wouldn't listen to anybody. So I can understand their mindset when they come at us with this, I know everything. It's like, no, I understand where you're coming from, but you don't. You don't know everything. The most wise thing that anyone can say is that we don't really know much of shit, but here's what we do know. Okay? Here's our data set that we do know. Right? So, um, that's what just drives me up the fucking wall about these people these days. It ain't. I mean, there's fitness influencers that do it as well. They believe that they know everything, and it's that mindset. You see it a lot, and it's like once people pass around 25, sometimes even 30, it's like, whoa, man, I really didn't know much shit, did I? Oh, maybe I need to start relearning some of this stuff. I did it myself. So, and I was one of the most stubborn and rebellious of the pack. So for and I feel like that rebellious kind of mindset has only just multiplied, like, I mean, like a damn plague in our teenagers and young adults. That rebellious, I know everything, you can't teach me anything kind of mindset where, oh, I'm fat and I'm healthy. Screw your, data set. Screw this. Screw everything else. And you said, beauty and health, and in a certain way, they are related because while there are women out there that the models or whatever, the runway models, I would not call them healthy because they don't eat shit, but the beauty standards that the average dude, find attractive, like say, Megan Fox, maybe not now, but back when she played in Transformers or whatever,
Yeah.
or Natalie Portman, you wouldn't say that they're anorexic and you wouldn't say that they're overweight. They're of average body weight. And that's what I refer to when I'm talking about standards of attraction, on average standards of attraction. So they're of average body weight. They're of what would most likely be considered a healthy body weight. So back to beauty and the health and how they're linked. There it is. You got it. They are linked because, and obviously, like I said, there are outliers where some people prefer um, their women to be overweight. Some people prefer their men to be overweight. Some people prefer their women to be skinny and like I would break a woman in half that's anorexic.
Yeah, I know.
There's obviously outliers, but on average, what is considered um, attractive is an average weight, healthy looking woman or man or whatever. Um, that's just the average standard, the beauty and attractive standards that are set amongst our society. And that's not just based in the US. While they vary a little bit when you spin the globe around and look at China, they don't really vary that much. A lot more people over there are jerking off to hentai, which is cartoon porn, than they are here in the US. But still, there's people here in the US that do that shit too. So,
So
uh,
let me add this. So you said that's the beauty standard is a societal thing. I would almost argue completely against that and say that's completely instinctual. Because I think that over thousands and tens of thousands of years, depending on what you believe in, I'm not getting into religion or beliefs, but the tens of thousands of years of evolution, instinctually, our eyes see a a healthy or a beautiful form. Male to female, I see a female form that I find beautiful, and instinctually, it seems to be a healthy individual because instinctually we want to reproduce with other healthy individuals and produce healthy offspring to continue mankind. So I would argue, and I'm not saying that you meant it, literally, but I would argue it's not a social construct. It's purely instinctual. Our eyes see beauty in the form. If you're female, you see beauty in a man in their masculine form, and you know that they can provide, they can protect, they can do these things. That's why a woman
most
is
of
attracted to a man. So and it
most
goes both ways. Then as a man looks at a woman, they see the female form. It's much different than a man's partner. Oh, the female form is a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. I'm gonna thank Jesus when I get up there. So, I mean, it's that hourglass look for the most part. And the reason why they have the hourglass look is because they have the larger hips. Why do they have the larger hips? To give birth. This is all like instinctual stuff. I'm not trying to judge anybody. This is pure human instinct. And then you'll have your outliers, which you were talking about, Chris, which maybe people who have little fetishes that are into huge people or into super skinny, bony people. People have fetishes.
yeah,
Those are exceptions to the rule. But I'm going to say that instinctually, it is built into us as to what generally a beautiful form is to us. That's my argument.
absolutely. No, I mentioned that. I mentioned the genetic favorability. That has always been there, but it's the health at every size advocates that are trying to change that now through societal methods, right? They're trying to change what society considers to be attractive. And they're getting in the heads of the impressionable young adults and teens. And it's kind of, while I don't have anything against anybody, I don't there's very few people I will take issue with besides people who directly want to put my family into harm's way or um, take away from my ability to provide for my family. So, while that is said, there is still an objective set of facts that we have to look at. So, when and another wrench in the gears that gets thrown in is that as of late, in modern day, mental health has been studied a lot more. It's been diagnoses are higher than ever. And while I do think that that is related to social media, I also believe it is due to people being evaluated more. It's being more accepted for people to seek help for their mental health. So I don't think that it's such a terrible thing for people to think that um you know, take the girl that I mentioned earlier, the preteen. She's got her idol. It's Tess Holiday and Lizzo, and she just watched the new She-Hulk episode, and she's all stoked about it because it was Lizzo in it, or no, it was Megan the Stallion. That one was in there. And no, I did not watch that damn show, but I did watch a review on it. So anyway,
Whatever.
yeah, she's all, she probably doesn't get along with her parents anymore because she's alienated herself from them because she's obese, and like I said, her parents are not. And so she's talking to her therapist, and she tells her therapist, I'm happy, I'm healthy no matter what size I am. What would you expect a therapist to respond? How would you expect a therapist to respond to that?
Well,
Would you say, no, you're not?
well, that's how you would expect a therapist to respond to it. But unfortunately, I think almost to kind of tie into what you're saying, in this day and age, we have more diagnoses happening. And I also think that more diagnoses are happening because we've become a very soft, victimized society. So then you have doctors that will placate to their patient rather than actually treat them. So it actually does them direct harm.
Yeah.
Some of these therapists do direct harm in enabling some of these conditions that are clearly mental health conditions. And rather than try to treat them and fix them, they play to them and they encourage them. We have a major problem.
So, okay. So, from the standpoint of studying the subject, if they kind of play along, almost like an investigator would, talking to a psychopath who's just sitting there like it's just another day telling about how he just murdered his whole family, right? And the investigators,
Right.
oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Tell me more about that.
Yeah.
How far do they go before? So, does the therapist talk? Oh, say the kid, so it's a preteen, so the therapist would just kind of not really contradict the child, but not at the same time not condone what she's saying either.
Sure.
She just kind of studies the subject
Sure.
for a further down the line kind of disillusion. She's gonna, and then she consults the parents. But
Right.
the kid's already alienated from her parents, and then she's going to be alienated from her therapist if the parents come and say, you're kind of, so where do we go from here? And then she gets taken out. I've seen this actually happen with my little, one of my stepsisters. She got taken out of school because, and they put her in like an alternative school and had her like under these for mental health. I don't know. It was weird. She was gone for like a few months and she came back worse than ever.
That's
So
terrible.
yeah, it's but I mean she's happy now. She's actually doing really well now. But
Good.
back then, I mean, it was a really hard time for her. So um where do we go? Where do we go with that?
And
Because
I mean,
this is happening. I mean, by the thousands,
right.
this is happening.
You know,
And like I said, the parents, they're not like fitness enthusiasts, but they're healthy.
sure.
Maybe they go for a jog a couple times a week or something, ride a
Sure.
bike or something. But they're healthy.
Right. Just generally healthy.
But
Just
they're
healthy enough to not be unhealthy. Like they're not working hard at it, but they're also paying attention to what they're doing and what they're eating.
yes. So
Yeah.
how do we consult this issue? And Laura says, isn't society already telling it? Yes, that is exactly what I was saying is these fat acceptance advocates or healthy at every size advocates are trying to change our internal standards through the method of societal constructs, if that makes any sense.
It does.
And yeah, you would say that, yeah, that we actually watch a lot. If you guys know the guy, that chapter, his name's Mike. He's from Ireland, I think. He's got a great YouTube channel. He does true crime, but yeah, you see stuff like that all the time where the kids kill their parents because they're so far alienated from them, and the parents are just trying to help their kid. It's really sad, dude. It's messed up.
It's very sad. It's very sad. And when you get that deep into mental, um, it's so far beyond my scope that I don't have a whole lot to say about it. But just my opinion. And my opinion is that it's tragic, and I think that uh, therapists could do a better job. That's all I'm saying, because I don't know how to. I don't know what to fix. I didn't study the brain. Okay, I studied the cardiovascular system. That's my expertise, and your expertise is yours, and everybody has their own. But I think when we're dealing in this deep into a mental health, uh, we're outside of anything that I can say that's intelligent. All I can speak on physical health, and I can also speak on mental and emotional and like spiritual health.
In a
Yeah,
generalized.
from a generalized point of view, and from my perspective, for like anecdotal stuff, right? But I'm not an expert in it, and I think that especially when you're dealing with children and how they're growing, and their brains are still forming and growing, and so that's even more critical. I think when you're dealing with an adult, just my opinion, when you're dealing with an adult, everything's already formed there. They've already dealt with their little hormonal issues. They're past all that crap,
I
right?
think it's
So,
25, isn't it? When your brain stops developing?
yeah,
Like
something like that.
completely. I mean, like completely.
So,
I mean, your brain is actually always changing. Your brain
sure,
chemistry is always changing. So it is malleable, but
yeah,
it's not as impressionable as a child where it's like just, I
well, no,
mean, within hours, their brain can literally, like they've done MRI studies where they would study the kid's brain, and then they would have them like study some activity for a few hours and then do the MRI scan again, and they would be able to see physical differences in the brain construction.
yeah, it's just
That's how quickly it can change.
it's crazy, and that's why it's so dangerous to play with fire like that. From a therapist point of view, you better have a good one who knows what they're doing, or at
And
least is
not
doing it from a very honest place, not placating, not encouraging,
an objective
not enabling.
stance.
Thank you. Exactly. That's my point. So, yeah, I mean, it's tragic stuff. And, I thank God for those therapists out there who do a great job. But for those who enable and really make the problem even worse for that poor child, whoever the child may be, there's a special place in hell for you. And you better be glad I'm not your maker, right? And goodness, I'm not, because I would lay judgment down on a lot of folks right now here today. And that's why I'm not God. He is
Right.
much further beyond me. I will not lay judgment. But from here, from this side of the table, in my faith, it says, do not judge lest they be judged. And all that means is I will judge you on the very same standard that I judge myself on. Right. So I'm going to judge you. And it's bad news. You don't want to mess with kids, man. You got to be honest with that as a therapist. You could cause some significant issues, far more than an adult, as I was, talking about earlier before you added to it. An adult's brain is already formed. It's I think from my opinion, it's easier to treat an adult than it is a child, and I think
Oh,
you
fuck.
made that point as well. So it's just
Absolutely.
I'm hands off on it. I'm hands off on it, and I stay away
Well,
from.
that's just kind of like, that was kind of the point I was trying to make. Is that
Yeah,
that's kind of like the only, I mean, I don't know how to argue from an adult perspective. Like you did a really great job of that, because the thing I'm always thinking about is the kids and like who I'm going to be sending my kid to school with, and what his surroundings are going to be like. So for me, I can argue probably better from that perspective, or from the parent of the kid who's going through it, rather than I myself am going through it,
hmm
because that's where I see the biggest issue is them preaching this. I'm done debating from the fat acceptance.
I see.
I cast off the horns. Okay. But I see the biggest issue is with these people telling these children that these data set and these statistics that we have gone and based our health and health standards by, physical health and mental health, that they're just to be thrown out the window. Everything that's in that AMP book over there is just to be burned, and screw it. It's wrong. And, to tell these kids that and make them believe, oh, you create your own reality. You have your own truth. Don't let anyone change your truth. It's like, you can play pretend all you want to at your house and by yourself, that's fine. But when you bring it out into public and you project it onto my kid or other people's kids they don't have any business listening to your nonsense that these people are preaching to these. And there's overgrown children, obviously, as well, that are also eating it up. They just love it. Yes, repeat my own thoughts, yes. But the kids, and we even had a kid that came into our show for a while, and she was she started kind of changing her own look. You see how in our small, tiny channel, we made a difference for one child. So look at Lizzo and Tess Hall, that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of subscribers. How many kids on a daily basis do you think stumble across their channel and are like, oh, okay. Oh, I ain't got to go for walks anymore. Oh, I don't have to try to eat healthy. That's what I really take issue with. And while I do understand catering to their mental health as far as like not, shaming them or doing, because they're kids, obviously. There's a certain type of approach that must be taken. And I think it needs to be taken on a case-by-case basis. But it's just like we're all riding in a bus now and there's not even anybody driving. It's just flying down the interstate at 90 miles an hour with the damn steering wheel just going back and forth. Nobody driving at all. There's nobody in the driver's seat.
Absolutely. All the time. All the time.
Disagree with what, Laura? What do you disagree with? Is she talking to you?
I don't know. I'm about to find out. I was ready to wrap this bad boy up, and then Laura hit us with that. I want to know what she disagreed with.
Oh, Laura, you got to go back and watch the rest of the show. She says she disagrees with the fact that it is easier to treat an adult versus a child. It depends on the circumstances, for sure, because obviously an adult's going to have more variables in their mind. They have more life experience. They might have more demons to deal with. But the approach that you take to dealing with a child is very complex in that you don't know what, you can get an idea of what they've been through, but you don't really know how they perceived it and how they experienced it. So you have to take a very cautious approach to understanding the child before you can treat the child, I feel like.
Sure. And Laura, to answer your question further, she says, but please lay out your case. Laura, I already did. If you go back and watch, the earlier show, I did. I explained it. The thing is first and foremost, I did make it clear that I'm no expert on this whatsoever, and I'm purely speaking from an opinion standpoint. And then I explained why I formed that opinion. I have no facts to back it up. I have no research, no nothing. So hopefully I didn't step any toes by saying that, but it's just purely my opinion.
No, she's cool, dude. She's one of the most open-minded people you'll ever meet. I'm
just saying, from anybody else who may be watching the playback as well. The thing is, I personally feel like it could be easier to treat an adult than a child, because a child's a moving target. An adult, man, the brain's already formed, so we're just going to aim at what the problem is and then try to go fix it. That's totally an oversimplification of the matter, obviously, but that's where I'm coming from.
I think she's coming from probably like a combat veteran versus a kid who's
Or
getting picked
yeah,
on at
it's
school,
coming from
you
the
know. So
complexity.
it's definitely another case by case basis, basically, you
100%,
know.
100%. I mean, it
But
just
the
is what
fat
it is.
acceptance toxicity that is just going into these kids' brains, and I didn't mean to cut you off again, but I mean, it's just that, and you know, to take, you know, your side, Michael, is like it complicates things even further because
Yeah,
they're literally their perception of reality is being molded by these uh social media,
yeah,
you know, and they don't even go outside and actually touch the ground and base themselves in reality, you know.
yeah,
They're more virtual than anything. You see kids, I mean, all the time, just like this, walk around, walking, crossing the damn crosswalk, they're just like this,
yeah,
you know, just like, yeah, oh, yeah,
yeah,
like that. I make it a point to like put my phone away most of the time by like 6 o'clock. I use it for a lot of my work, so I am on my phone a lot. And I
mhm,
do, I get onto social media. I kind of stepped away from Twitter for a while. It was just kind of irritating. Not that I was bothered by anybody. It's just the only people that ever wanted to take a stance against me or say anything really were bots. It would always be a blank Twitter account with maybe one follower, and they would be following like 600 people, and they would just say the same thing over and over and over again, and just alternate the way they arrange their words, basically. But Laura, yes, I would definitely encourage you to go back and watch at least from the middle on, because Michael did a much better job than I did arguing from the fat acceptance perspective. And I got to give it up to my co-host here. He really did a great job.
yeah, man.
Um, but yeah, if you missed out, anybody, if you missed out on the beginning, definitely it's worth the watch. I'm not just saying that because it's my show. I really think that this content that we made today is really, uh, really, I think it was a productive piece of work
Yeah,
because I'm gonna go ahead and probably reformat some of this and or repurpose it, if you will, and
yeah,
make some shorter form videos because I think we really touched on some great topics today. And I really appreciate everybody who's joined in the chat and just joined. And if you guys don't mind, just smash that like button. And
yep,
first link in the description box is to Michael's channel, Truth Under Tension. Make sure to go subscribe to him and turn on notifications because 2 weeks from today, we'll be going live on his channel.
yes,
Same
sir.
show, episode 23 of Fit Dads Live.
Got it.
And yeah, you got anything else, Michael?
No, man, you said it all. I appreciate everybody coming through. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button and hitting subscribe if you haven't already. Okay, we're gonna make sure to get Chris's numbers up. We gotta get this channel blowing up, Chris.
I think I just hit 250, honestly.
I know. Congratulations. I saw that.
I think that is awesome. I appreciate you. I think it was, I got an email. Sometimes I get an email telling me
Yeah,
that somebody subscribed and sometimes I don't. So
me
I
too.
think it was actually Chris Diggs that subscribed.
Cool.
I could be mistaken. He may have already been subscribed.
Cool.
But to whoever it was that helped me cross that line, I really appreciate you guys.
Most
I
definitely.
appreciate all of my subscribers, everybody watching. I appreciate everybody. Is this based
Absolutely.
off the indoctrinate? Absolutely. It's kind of, yeah, just the fat acceptance, stance in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you'd really enjoy it, Laura, and I appreciate you for stopping through. I'm sorry I didn't even share the link to Mug Club chat like I usually do, but we still drummed up a decent audience. But all right, we're gonna wrap it up, guys. I really appreciate y'all once again, and we'll see y'all in 2 weeks.
Yep. Thanks a lot, man.